Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try and record this again. There's a lot going on in the hotel tonight, so I won't talk about that. But um, I needed to actually re-upload the video that I posted because there were some gaps and mistakes in that video. And if anybody wants to use it for bloopers, actually you can. But that video was talking about the communications that I'm expecting, what I'm working on, and kind of building on my experience with transnational repression. So, again, I want to start by saying that when I was first in Sweden, before I came to the Republic of Ireland, what I did was what I normally do is I look to reports and human rights reports and decisions from the European Court of Human Rights to decide if a country is safe. Before I even left the United States, like I felt like I did a lot of research before I went to Canada, because I want to ensure that my rights are protected in any country that I go to. So that was one thing that I did before I came to the Republic of Ireland, was that I consulted a website called EDAL, and I actually forget what this acronym stands for, but I actually consulted this website and I was looking on it and said, okay, I'm safe, the human rights are okay in this country, I don't have anything to worry about. So when I came to the Republic of Ireland, of course, as you know, like I was encapsulated in a practice called transnational repression. And of course, when I got, as you know, if you watched several of my videos, I didn't know in the beginning what transnational repression was. Of course, on my human rights journey, I was apprised of certain practices in international human rights and humanitarian law, but I was not educated on transnational repression. Of course, this is a very new phenomenon. So there are a few people. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about transnational repression and people that I believed that were experiencing it in direct provision. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about who these people are. I talk about some of these people in other videos, but I'm just not going to actually get into that in this video. So there was one woman who was at the Belfast Reception Center, and she was an Asian woman, and she wore kind of like a long trench coat. It was pink. It was like a powdered pink coat. Of course, this was during a time where it was very cold. And of course, we're all wearing coats during this time. So there was nothing abnormal about her wearing a coat. And during this time at Balseskin, I noticed that a lot of people were treating her differently, but of course I was very new in this accommodation. It didn't really come to my attention as transnational repression or human rights violation, because again, I didn't know the history that this woman had with these people. And so of course I couldn't make an informed judgment on why they were treating her this way. But I will say this, is that I had befriended a Nigerian woman, and she and I were talking, and one day she told me that I needed to watch out for this woman because she is going to say A, B, C, and D to me. And I didn't know exactly really what she meant and why she was saying that. But one day the woman actually approached me and she hit me, and it wasn't like a hard hit, but I think it was pushed, and she asked me, why am I, and of course other people were saying that as well, and saying like, why is she from China? And I found that to be kind of interesting that she said that, because I had never said that. And When she hit me, I didn't hit her back. I didn't engage in any violence because, again, I was caught off guard by the situation and it just kind of like shocked me and threw me aback. So my first reaction was to really take in what was being said and what was being launched at me. And of course, again, like I never said anything about her or to anyone to make her believe that it was me. And of course, at that time, I was of the opinion that maybe she got it wrong. Maybe it was somebody else who said it, and maybe she thought it was me, right? So I didn't really think too much of it. And I did see her getting into confrontations with other asylum seekers, but I think I don't. I'm starting to believe that those confrontations were provoked. I'll say that. So this was one person that I believe, upon reflection, hindsight 2020, that this woman could have been going through transnational repression. Another person that I believe that was going through transnational repression is Thomas Stoffel. Now, I'm not going to be talking about Thomas Stoffel in detail in this video um, for legal reasons, but I do feel that he may have encountered a, a system or encountered something that he didn't quite know that could have possibly been transnational repression within direct provision. There's also another person who, as I said, I met at the accommodation in Waterford. I believe that this gentleman was going through transnational repression as well. There was a woman within the Kinsale Road Accommodation Center who unfortunately stories have said that she took her own life. I believe that she was encapsulated in the practice of transnational repression based on the information that has come to light. And there was an Afghan guy who lived in Monaghan, I believe, and there were some issues in his story, and there were a lot of information that I was reading that led me to believe that this person was also encapsulated in the practice of transnational repression. Now, when I myself became encapsulated in the practice of transnational repression, I was very frightened, as I still am. I'm frightened just as most people are because it is quite an intimidating practice, and from one day to the next, you don't actually know what is going to happen. But what I did was that I didn't want to launch any unfair accusations against my country. You know, I'm an American citizen and I was born in the United States, and I have been in a confrontation with with my country because of my asylum claim. And the events that have happened have led me to believe that it is the United States that is perpetuating this practice of transnational repression. But I don't want to unfairly cast that against my country because that is a serious accusation. And what I've done is that I've given my country an opportunity to respond to my concerns. So on September the 11th, 2023, I actually wrote an article or an open letter to the US ambassador to Ireland and asked for it to address my concerns regarding transnational repression in the Republic of Ireland. I didn't get a response from that letter, so I renewed my request this year, February the 23rd, 2024, asking for the US ambassador to Ireland to please launch an inquiry into transnational repression and to actually stop the to stop it, to investigate it, and to bring it to a halt. Now, of course, we know that the United States has talked very publicly about transnational repression on the soil of the United States and in foreign nations. The United States has been a proponent of eliminating the practice of transnational repression, and all of that action, all of those actions leads me to believe that the United States can respond to my specific complaint of transnational repression. Now, again, I cannot unfairly what okay, let's go back. So in some of the reports and the articles that I've written, I've actually casted and alleged that the United States has been involved in transnational repression because this practice is often or actually this practice is often put into practice and it's put into practice by authoritarian regimes. So when we think about the silencing of dissent, when we're thinking about this kind of activity, we often understand clearly that it is democratic, excuse me, not democratic, but it is authoritarian regimes that often stop their citizens from speaking out. Now, I don't hold that opinion to say that all democratic regimes are engaging in transnational repression. What I'm going on is my personal experiences and what I have observed when I was in direct provision. Now, I will continue to say that there are a group of people who may be perpetuating this practice of transnational repression, but making it look as if the United States is doing it. Those people are a man named Donald Hurley, who has a connection to Bradley Hale. There is also a man named Maurice O'Sullivan. There is also a couple named Assad Mahmoud and Zoa Zoa. All these people, in my understanding, are complicit in this scheme of transnational repression. Now, the reason why I'm bringing all these people, I'm mentioning the names of all these people because I believe that it is in the public's interest, and that is a serious practice, and I don't think that anyone should have to go through it. It is a very daunting practice, and it's frightening, to say the least. It's frightening. Now, there are several things that have happened under this practice. Like, as you know, I've been encapsulated in digital threats. So I believe that people have been getting into my Twitter account and, sending messages, pretending to be me, in my own personal account. Now, that is unlawful. And not only has that happened, but of course, there has been communications that have been sent to me to try and stop me from engaging in my human rights activity. And I've actually tried to block those individuals that have been trying to intimidate me. I reported one to Twitter. Twitter did sustain my complaint and found that person who was intimidating me was in violation of the policy. So in essence, there is energy of digital threats and an organized crime gang that is behind these practices. So for instance, my first time experiencing digital threats in the form of people getting into my email accounts, people actually sending messages from my email accounts, people deleting my email accounts, deleting my social media accounts, stopping me from logging into my own website. I haven't had access to my website for approximately 7 months, haven't been able to report on it. And all that happened in the Republic of Ireland. Now, when I fled the Republic of Ireland, that activity continued. For example, I had email accounts deleted. I had a TikTok account deleted. I had YouTube accounts deleted. I had a Medium account. Actually, that Medium account, I was unable to log into it. So as you can see, the moment that I actually fled the Republic of Ireland and came into decided to settle in and claim asylum in the UK, that activity that continued made those activities transnational organized crime, because there is a group that is coming together in unison to discuss the ways in which they will manage my content, decide how my content won't receive followers, deleting my accounts, and doing so in a way to where it will undermine my testimony as an epistemic subject when I actually speak out about it. So as you can see, there's a lot that has happened. Also, I have been pushed out of university. I was attending University of Arizona online, and while I was attending the University of Arizona online, there has been a lot of things that have happened. For example, someone had actually either hidden or concealed or stolen my student loans and my Pell Grants, and there were there were alterations to my coursework, alterations to the assignment. Of course, we know that cyber insurgents and IT people who have experience, hackers that have experience, they can change all of this information that's online and change our perceptions about what we see. And basically that is exactly what was happening. For example, I would upload an assignment while I was at the University of Arizona, and I was clear and checked the assignment, and when I would upload the assignment would change. So there would be a different assignment. And this happened 2 or 3 times. So when that happened, I said, okay, there is serious sabotage going on. I don't know who's doing it. So maybe this is the United States doing it. So let me cut ties 100% with the United States. And of course, what I did was I contacted the University of Arizona and I said, hey, I am not going to be attending this university. If you are going to be sending any loans or grants, I need to be able to pick those up in person. And I checked box that I would be picking those things up in person. Of course, I can't pick those up in person because I'm not within the United States. So whoever is accessing my student loans, they would need to actually go to the university and pick those student loans up. If that has changed, that means that someone has changed it online and it wasn't me. So that's all of what I have experienced under this practice of transnational repression. It's not everything, but it is the digital aspect of it. And of course, this is one reason why I continue to engage in my human rights activity. Now, I want to further say that I am currently working on a 2024 report on the United States, and I'm trying to balance that report out. I made a gaffe in my prior video. I had to take that down offline, but what I said was that I'll clarify here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm drafting a report on political polarization and division within the United States. Now, this report is not going to be shining the United States in a negative light. Basically, it's going to be balancing out both parties and events that are happening in the United States that I believe is dividing the country. And then I'm going to give some recommendations what I feel could actually bring the country together in a more unified way. I have uploaded a draft onto Medium and published that. Now, there are a lot of grammatical errors in that report because, of course, what I did was I just kind of wrote everything today that came to my mind about how I was going to actually structure this report, and I'm going to go back and edit that report. So although I made it public, I did put that it's just an unfinished draft. So if you're reading it, of course, there's going to be some errors in that report. It's not finished. When the report is finished, I will take the unfinished draft off of the report and actually create a PDF file for which is a PDF file that can be downloaded. And when you see that PDF file, you'll start to understand, or essentially what you'll know is that that report is completed. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm actually working on another report as well that I've actually put on hold because I understand that I'm under digital surveillance and that report might not get to its intended recipient. So I am afraid to continue to report on that until I get some, I guess, until there's more supervision with the report that I'm writing. And I also want to state that, of course, I'm hoping that all of this can come together to actually be a report that is used not in a way that brings division within the United States, but just from a nuanced perspective that the country does need to make some changes that are political, and that, of course, those changes can be made. The changes that I'm recommending that can be made, I think that either party can implement them. So as I continue, I want you to know that in this report, there's a lot of things that I talk about. For example, I talk about immigration, I talk about the Hamas Israeli war, and in that I give a balanced perspective of what the Palestinians are going through and what the Israelis are going through. I give a balanced perspective on, of course, the Supreme Court's decisions that they've made when it comes to the overturning of Roe v. Wade and its decision to keep Donald Trump on the ballot. I talk about racial justice in this report, gun violence. I also talk about I think I've already said immigration, women's rights. I will be adding child's rights, situations that are happening to children. So there's a lot of aspects that are included in this report that I think will bring it full circle. And I also want to continue to say that I'm also very excited to continue to advocate, advocate for policy change and to write these reports as a human rights defender. I think it's necessary, and I hope that it does bring the kind of change that it needs. I'm on the fence. Just a moment. I'm on the fence as to whether or not I want to include transnational repression in that report. I might not include it in that report because most of the things that are, excuse me, most of the policies and actions and events that are being that I'm writing about in that report are happening domestically and not transnationally or internationally. So I might not include that in the report. It might go into another one. So again, that's what I'm working on. So I'm expecting correspondence from the US ambassador to Ireland. I've called the US ambassador to Ireland. I've called the US Consulate to Belfast, and I'm hoping that we can get clarity about this. And I'm just hoping that they don't decide to just make me the scapegoat of this situation, that they just really understand that, like, this has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm not, you know, doing these things, and I'm not, I don't deserve it. I'm in a democratic nation, so I'm in the UK. And when I was in the Republic of Ireland, I was in a democratic nation, and I'm from a nation that is purported to be democratic. So there is no reason for any country that I'm in, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland. Of course, I don't think that this is Northern Ireland, but there's no reason for any of these countries to be enshrining me in transnational repression, because, of course, I'm not coming from a country that is deeply, deeply entrenched in, deeply entrenched in transnational repression. Now, of course, maybe it is. Let's balance it out. Maybe it is, and I just didn't know that. Maybe it is, and maybe I'm new to it. But what I hope will happen is that my report will offer a fresh view of the polarization that's happening within the United States, and that, it can change something. Of course, again, this is going to be a very balanced and impartial report. Now, right now, I'm still working on that report. Again, it's just a draft, it's unfinished, it has grammatical errors, and maybe some parts may seem more biased, but that's because, of course, I'm still working on the report, and I haven't had the time, I haven't had the time to actually balance it out. So, and I'm still working on that. And I just uploaded the report today. I just thought about what I wanted to write about. I think it's 1,000 words that I wrote today, and I will make some edits to it tomorrow. Okay, so what else do I want to say? So I talked about my communications with the US ambassador to Ireland. I talked about my communications to the US Consulate. I talked about transnational repression, how I first understood that it was happening. What else did I talk about? I talked about the reports that I'm writing. What else? What else is happening that I can talk about on here? I think that's it. I think that's it. I want to go back to this organized crime gang. So again, what I am experiencing is transnational repression. I'm experiencing transnational repression, but when it comes, if we're looking at it from, if we think about a pyramid, I think it's on the bottom of the pyramid. It's not the heightened level of transnational repression. And I think that even still, this lowering energy of transnational repression is still significant enough to cause harm and rise to the level of degrading treatment and punishment. So again, there is a group of people that I believe, if not the United States and if not the Republic of Ireland, again, I am keeping my mind open about this. So again, I'm an American citizen. I don't want to launch any unfair accusations at my country, because again, my country, I deserve to give my country an opportunity to investigate this serious allegation. And and this opportunity, the opportunity that I'm giving my country to investigate this is so that if there is room to build a relationship with my country, then I want to actually take that opportunity. And again, I don't want to launch, you know, a baseless accusation at my country. So what I'm doing now is I am asking my country to investigate this. Now, if it's not the United States doing it, then it may as well been it could likely be the Republic of Ireland that's doing it. Now, if it's not the Republic of Ireland, then it is 100% an organized crime gang that's doing it. Now, you may say, well, Kiana, well, how is it this group of people that could be doing this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because in these countries, there is certain immigrants that have a lot of political influence. So, for example, Blaney, I think it's Infacco. I really don't know how to pronounce his name, but he has a lot of influence. He has a lot of influence with the president of Ireland, and he is connected to some of these people. Now, I'm not saying that it's Blaney that is part of this organized crime group, because I don't know. And I'm not saying that it's Massey. Now, I had a conversation with Massey on the phone on 2 separate occasions. And although I would agree that in the past, in my report, I stated that Massey didn't help me, which is an accurate depiction of the events that occurred during that time. When I had a serious conversation with Massey, I had 2 separate conversations. One, I think, was over the phone, and then one was over video chat. And Massey invited me to be a part of their group. And there was something that happened after that that gave me the impression and led me to believe that this was not Massey that was actually forwarding this abuse upon me. And I can't tell you what that is because I have to keep that secret, but I can say that I don't think that Massey, I'll say this, I don't think that it is Lucky Kambuli that is doing this to me. Now, I'm not saying this because Lucky Kambuli is black. That's not the position that I'm coming from. You know, if this particular situation, after he invited me to be a part of the group, and this circumstance that happened after that didn't take place, maybe I would still think that he was a part of that. But the way in which we had this conversation, and it wouldn't make any sense that he would be involved in what happened directly after that. So again, I think that this does not have anything to do with race. The people that I'm bringing up in this video is because that they were complicit and that they did things that forwarded and not only could put my life at risk, but put others. And I'm not saying, listen, when I'm bringing this up, I'm discussing it in a way that it's in the public's interest, and I don't mean to throw any allegations on anyone unfairly. I'm speaking about how each of these people treated me in my time with them. Now, you have to think about it, Kiana. You could say, Kiana, like, why are you saying this to these people about these people? Listen, I'm genuinely not. I was in direct provision with a lot of people of all races, of all backgrounds, and I am not handpicking people to throw allegations on. I'm just not. these people that I'm talking about were complicit, and I wouldn't be bringing up their names if they weren't. I'm telling you the truth. Just think about it. There were so many people. Even even when I was in direct provision, there were people that have wronged me. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a guy there in direct provision. No, I'm not going to even bring that up. But know this: there have been people that have wronged me, and I'm not bringing their names up, and I'm not talking about them because I don't believe that they were complicit in this organized crime or this transnational repression. I just think that when there was a disagreement, we just had a disagreement. The people that I'm bringing up, I know for a fact have IT experience, that they are very skilled at manipulating, and I really wish that we could sit down and have a talk about everything that has happened and to lay everything on the table. But I doubt that that would happen. Again, this because everyone has been silent and not talking and not telling me uh, who is involved. Of course, my only option is to ask my own country. Like, I cannot just say, not ask anyone. Like, if you're going through human rights violation, you have to engage with the people that you think that are doing it. And again, like I said, I am an American citizen, and although my country and I, we have been at loggerheads, it's not the right thing to do for me to actually launch an accusation against the United States that they are not involved in. So that is why I'm being very careful about that. And yes, in the past, I have stated that the United States was involved in transnational repression. Yeah, I did say that because when a person is subjected to transnational repression, it is always their country of origin that's doing it to them. But again, because there are so many people involved in this particular situation, it could be an organized crime group making it appear as if the United States is involved. And I want to give the United States an opportunity to respond. And I think that that is the most adult thing to do. And that's why I'm doing it. So there you have it. I'm sorry about having to upload this video again. Of course, there was some mistakes in that video, and like I said at the beginning of this video, if anyone wants to use that as parody or fun time, go ahead, use it. But that's all, and we will come on here later, probably later tonight, and speak about some other political things. There are a lot of stuff. There is so much going on in Twitterverse right now you wouldn't believe. And I may come on here and talk about those events. So stay tuned.